It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woohooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver? I kind of like the high five, but if you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. At ChumbaCasino.com, choose from hundreds of social casino-style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses. So don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woohooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver? I kind of like the high five, but if you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. At ChumbaCasino.com, choose from hundreds of social casino-style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses. So don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
With Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to... Has anyone seen the bride and groom?
Sorry, we're here. We were getting lucky in the limo and we lost track of time.
No, Lucky Land Casino, with cash prizes that add up quicker than a guest registry.
In that case, I pronounce you lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Daily bonuses are waiting. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
It's one of the most famous clubs in the world, a shirt many people will recognise without really knowing too much about it. They've been part of the men's game in their sport since 1890, but the women's team has only been in existence for 4 years. But this year, and for the first time ever, there'll be a first home double-header with the men's and women's team in action at the home of rugby, Twickenham. I'm John.
And I'm Michael, and this is Great British Bosses from Anything But Footy. We are the podcast that focuses on the men and women behind and running British sport in this country. We're talking about the decision makers, the people who make changes happen. And we are delighted to be speaking to one of them in this episode, as well as a stalwart of Wasps Women, as a player, coach and administrator. She has a career with the NHS and has never experienced anything like the last 18 months of the pandemic. And she's also the driving force behind the creation and the establishment of the Barbarian Women.
Hello, I'm Fiona Stockley. I'm the women's coordinator for the Barbarians.
Fiona, firstly, an honour to meet you and to spend some time chatting to you. We, of course, as you say, talking about the Barbarians, the Baa-Baas, the Black and Whites. But why wasn't it until 2017 that the women first played a match?
If we look back a longer way, maybe 15 or 20 years, back to 1994, a team in existence called the Nomads was created by Carol Isherwood, and she set up a team of almost like Premiership All-Stars in the UK who played against international teams. And that existed right through until 2017. In fact, they played their last game in the March of that year. And they were the precursor to the Barbarians in every aspect. You know, the strange choice of socks, the bring your kit and rock up on the day kind of attitude to rugby. And that's what happened. And that team was in existence. They played nations, around the globe, and they were playing South Africa. And the conversation came in about how a news story had gone up onto the South African website, and they'd called us in that instance, the Nomads, the Barbarians. And I got a phone call from a lovely Scottish chap called Gordon Brown, who said, I need to phone you and tell you that, you can't use our name. We are the Barbarians. And I thought, you're right, you are. And I think that might be just a sort of a bit of an error on their part. We'll ask them to adjust it. But as I put the phone down, I thought, one, the Barbarians know who I am. They've got my number. And two, thought, wouldn't it be fantastic if there could be a women's Barbarians team? And, it did take a good 6 or 7 years later to have that conversation. And I think they had tried to set up a women's team, in the years prior to that, and it just quite hadn't, happened. And for me, I've been involved in women's rugby a long time, and I'm quite a networker, and someone sort of threw my name in the ring to the committee, and I got approached by Mike Burton, the England prop, lion, and Barbarian himself. And we became kind of pen friends over quite a period of time. And we stay very, very close, talk a lot. And he's been a great mentor in that environment for me. And that's where it started. I went along to the Park Lane Hilton, met the committee, had a presentation, which, they weren't really interested in electronics. They were quite happy with me talking through it. And that's where it really started. And then we were just looking, having had their approval, we were looking for the opportunity to play.
So they were obviously quite concerned about their brand, and we all know in the world that brands are important now. I remember Will Carling also saying about the Blazer Brigade back in the 90s of rugby. How tough then was it, Fiona, to persuade them to allow the Barbarians brand for you to be embraced, if you like?
I think the people in Blazers, they exist in every stream, in every sport. They're there today, and actually they bring culture and history to all of our sports. So actually there's a place for that. But what was great about the Barbarians is that they could see that change was something they wanted to be a part of, that their club could be bigger and better for the inclusion of a women's team. And from the very first moment, and what the turnaround here is, I'm back to Gordon Brown again. He sits there on the very first day and is delighted to welcome the first 23 players into the club. It's a club. It's not two teams. It's a club. And that was their attitude from day one. And so it's been, really refreshing in a way to have that Blazer Brigade really being able to say, we're ready to take that leap forward and be part of change. And they've been spectacular at that and supportive.
And when you talk about change and you talk about trying to change the culture, I guess, was there any resistance from anyone, or was it a universal 100% acceptance? Or were there opportunities, were there times when people perhaps had a little word in your ear about something?
Do you know what? I think that, of course, those people exist in every sport. And I think the one person I knew that had really struggled with the inclusion of a women's team was the president, and Mickey Steele-Bodger, who at the time would have been maybe 90 or 91. And that, someone at that age in their life has experienced incredible change over 90 years. But even though he was, his challenge was around women playing contact sports, he also knew that it was right for the club and it was right for us to have the women's team. And so he didn't shy away from sharing, his thoughts that he may have carried for 50, 60, 70, 80 years. But he was part of the group that approved the game. So, like I say, it was kind of unanimous in that, way. It was a real refreshing, positive, opportunity.
And for our audience that perhaps isn't so up on their history of the Baa-Baas, what briefly, and it's been a long history as far as the men's game is concerned, what briefly is it about? What is the ethos? How does this team get pulled together?
So I think when we think about the ethos of the team, we do work really hard at that, and we'll come on to that, talking about probably the coaching and the staff and the players. But the same mindset that goes through the coaching for the men's team and the selection of players is about coming together, having an excellent level of skill, but being able to use it with flair, being able to be passionate about your sport and reinvigorate the love of the game. And there are many people that walk away better for the experience, where they may have found themselves, in a bit of a rut at the end of what they felt was the end of a career, to feel reinvigorated again by the love of the game. Because it comes without the barriers that you have if you're an international team, where, if you're in this part of the park, you're going to have to play this move, because that's not how it is in the Barbarians. We're encouraging them to play with that, the cellar flair of France, and just throw the ball around. And you see that, some of the tries that we've scored over the last 4 or 5 years have been spectacular. And it's just because they're given the freedom to play. Jouer, as they say.
We will come and talk about the team and the coaching and the match at Twickenham in November. But rewind, Fiona, let's talk about you a little bit. We mentioned at the start that you're an NHS worker. So how on earth, in the last 18 months, in the last 2 years, 5 years, all the times you've been working, 10 years, 20 years, do you do that job as well as the role and responsibilities that you carry out in the world of rugby?
Now, I think that comes back to a lot of women who have worked in the game for a long time, because we've gone on a journey where people played international level rugby as complete amateurs. And so we're very used to volunteering. We're very used to giving our time. And in my time at Wasps, that I've been surrounded by incredibly strong female, empowerers of the game who have just got on and done stuff. And I think it's catching. Once you're in that culture, you become like that. And I think for me, I started at Wasps 21 years ago, which does date me a little. But I was at that point, starting my journey in sports administration, in sports management. I was desperately wanting a role in the club because it was such a great club to be a part of. And then once you get in, you can't shirk off the responsibilities. You're kind of stuck with them. And so for me, that's been a real joy to be involved, not playing anymore, but to stay involved with clubs. And I think the same with the Barbarians. With my day job, I'm a general manager. I run a child mental health service. It's called CAMS, based in Newham, which is a very diverse and very deprived borough. And so there's a lot of need. Over the last 18 months, I have had to take responsibility for a large group of staff to make them feel safe in their workplace and to give them everything they need to be able to do their job to the best of their ability. But I work in a great trust, in East London Foundation Trust, and the culture there is incredible. And I'm just tipping into 5 years of working in there, and that came about from sport. I was working at London Irish, and the team were relegated that first time, and they had to reduce, almost within 3 months all the staffing, because moving into the championship doesn't generate the same level of funding. So I was made redundant. And at that point, I got the opportunity to go and work into the NHS. And it was by far one of the best things I've ever done. For me as a person, my skill set, my knowledge, my management skills have all grown in that role. But my love of rugby is going to be there forever. So I need to find a place for it. So it's a bit more tricky when it's getting close to a game, because it becomes every weekend, every evening. But I still have my NHS, 40 hours a week that I'm doing on the sideline too.
Yeah, it was one of the questions I was going to ask. When you're building up to a big match, do you take leave? Or is it a case of, I'll just do it in the evenings while I've got a spare hour or two?
Yeah, and it's when you say a spare hour, it probably is, come up to 3 or 4 hours a night sometimes, because you'll know working in sport, it's almost instantaneous. Decisions have to be made quickly. Responses need to be quick. You can't sit on things. And so, yes, once that starts to happen, the conversations, you're starting to talk to, the team at the RFU about the operational match running of the day. You just have to be on that sort of stuff. So, yes, it is all the weekends, all the evenings. I've an incredible employer who have given me that flexibility to, if I need to take a meeting in the day, work a little longer in the evening. And also I sit on the board of Atlas Foundation, which is Jason Leonard's charity, supporting young people. And they've given me the time to support that as well. So the NHS is an incredible place to work. They get people, and so it's been supportive, but it's always going to be busy coming up to a big game. Effectively, I'm a one-man band organising an international match, so it's going to be busy, but I kind of like that.
I just want to ask you, Fiona, with your two hats on, if you like, your NHS hat, your rugby hat, how important you think it is that we look at sport, and we look at health, and we look at fitness, and we look at some of the issues that we've seen in the NHS, and we join those things together, because sport can be a huge part of the solution of some of the problems that the health service are experiencing now and potentially in the future are going to be experiencing at a real acute level.
Yeah, I think we're really lucky in the role that I do in mental health. We already get that. We're very aware that sport can impact on your physical health. Of course, that's the obvious, but it also has a real driver in supporting people who are struggling with their mental health. We have a project at work called Advantage, which works with football clubs And we work with Arsenal, we work with West Ham, we work with Leyton Orient, and that is a mentoring program for young people specifically who have struggled with the challenges through COVID with their mental health. So we're already there. I mean, it feels, sometimes the NHS can be a slow tugboat with change, but actually it's changing every minute. The NHS never stays still. And so we're constantly striving to develop and create ways, the social prescribing routes for young people. And I think you'll see now that people with mental health challenges in Kent are being given opportunities to attend the gym and their gym membership being paid, so that they can get that, that outlet. If that's their thing and it helps them feel a bit better, then, it's only for the positive. So we have to think outside the box all the time. So I'm really proud the Advantage project is there. I'm sure at some point it will drift into rugby, but that's now starting to go nationwide with Man City and a few other, Prem clubs.
So let's talk about your role then. You're building up to this match. We've got a huge match at the end of November, this historic doubleheader. What have you got to organise? What have you got to do between now and then in these evenings that you talk about?
What are we doing at the moment? So at the moment, we're finalising the squad. And because we're in this in-between professional, semi-professional place in the women's game, it takes a lot of negotiating. It's not as simple as, just saying, do you want to come and play? And actually, in some respects, that's what you are saying. Can we invite you to play? But then there's conversations if they're playing internationally for releases from their nation and or their club, because the Barbarians game will always fall on a club weekend. It's at the end of the autumn internationals where those international players may get a short break before they return to club fixtures. But we find ourselves having to negotiate that the league is playing. So the Alliance Premier 15s is the best league in the world. It is the best structured with the best players, the best coaching, and it's visible now. The live streams have increased, so we don't want to take 15 players out of that culture and impact on teams, because there's some massive head-to-heads that weekend. So we will look globally. Now, the next thing I'm facing a challenge is COVID, because that is going to control how people move around the globe. And what we don't want to do is I think you'll have seen the Kiwis winning gold in the sevens at Tokyo and then going home and sitting in a hotel for 2 weeks with that medal on their own. I mean, that must be, you're at that point wanting to celebrate, but you can't. So we don't want to put any players into that situation. But we are lucky that there are several tours all in the UK at that time. So we're negotiating with some of those countries at the moment. And there are some people that will always say, I'm ready now. This is, they've been playing at international level. They may be not anymore, and they're ready for the chance to come and join the club.
So you mentioned there that you're working on putting the team together, working, I'm assuming, with Joe Yap and Rachel Taylor, who you've brought back in as the lead coaching roles.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, we did have a game planned for last April. And of course, that was the height of, everyone being sent home and the traffic disappearing from London streets. So, it got cancelled. And, the honour in the club is there. So we already reached out to Rachel and to Joe to follow on. We love that, bringing in a coach that might sit over a couple of games or an assistant coach, because we're about bringing the culture in, but also continuing it and making it a historic way of working in the club. So that consistency can be really helpful. So we didn't get to go to play USA in Chula Vista. That would have been nice, a week in the Olympic Sevens training village, but we had made that promise. So it was, as soon as the game was arranged, the invite was extended again to both Rachel and Joe. They're both incredible coaches and have been on slightly different paths, but have crossed over through the World Rugby High Performance Coaching Academy, which is supporting high-level coaches to have experiences and opportunities. And Joe was already director of rugby in Exeter and was moving up to Worcester, and Rachel was moving into that coaching role in Wales. So they had gone through a journey with that performance academy and had started to, get into those high performance roles. As a pair, they're an incredible, calm pair of coaches. They're a joy to work with. So when I worked with them the first time when we played Wales, they made my week flow so well, because they were flexible and able to take what happens in sport is things change all the time, and things happen. You might get an injured player, or you know, training times might have to change or whatever. But they were really relaxed to be around, and that makes my job a joy. So for that reason, I'm looking forward to them working together again. But they also now know what it's like to be in that environment, what's expected of them, and what they want to bring out of the players. So for them, game 2 will be even better. It's even more of a challenge because they want to replicate what they did and improve on it for next time.
How on earth do you train before the match? So you're playing the Springbok Women's 15, 27th of November. This Killik Cup doubleheader at Twickenham, as we've been talking about, after the men's Barbarians versus Samoa. So how much time will Joe and Rachel have with the players once you've decided who's coming?
So we will meet the Monday before, and the coaching staff and all the staff there will meet probably that day, the Sunday night. But we will be working in advance, our schedules, our planning of what we're going to be doing. So there's work happening every week on that. And then the players will come in that afternoon. And what we tend to do at that point is have an opportunity for the squad to come together and share. It may be a little bit about their journey or what's got them to have the opportunity to become a Barbarian and what they're looking forward to that week. And each coach has done that session, that kind of almost like a sharing session, slightly differently. But it is quite cathartic for players to sort of say, you know, I'm doing this. Maybe they've lost a parent, or they've had a long run of injuries, or they've got a chance to play with someone that they've played against for decades. And so we have that moment. And then in true Barbarian style, we'll go out for a bit of dinner and we'll have a couple of drinks. And I think that starts the week well. You know, I think it's not the culture that we have all the way through the week. We work really hard. You know, there will be training every day, there'll be media. We will do team-based activities to help to grow the culture and the cohesion, because some people will have never met before or have only seen another player on a live stream. So, you know, you've got to get them to know each other, because at the end of the week, they need to put their body on the line for each other. And I think as soon as the egg gets on the pitch, they all go into that mindset, you know, and it doesn't matter what colour shirt they're wearing. Their skills and their abilities just take over. So, you know, we just gone a little journey that week and getting there. And then also giving them an opportunity to meet with the committee members or, you know, that can share with them what it's been like in the period of time they've been involved with the Barbarians, and again, give them the history and the culture of the club.
It's interesting you talk about that team dynamic and creating that team culture. John and I, in the early summer, actually did some work with Team GB and talked about how they brought 350 athletes together from 25 different sports and gave them an identity, made them a team, made them feel, even though one was a tennis player and one was a modern pentathlete, that they were all part of the same thing. And they said the reason they did that was because at the end of the day, it gave them a performance advantage. It wasn't just about let's have a nice time. It's about actually getting the very best, that extra 1% out the team. Is that your experience as well?
Absolutely. And you know, I do parts of my role now, parts of the role that Joe and Tails will have will be in developing the detail in that. So that conversation about how they'll play on the pitch, how they will approach situations and problems, how they'll communicate with each other, how, you know, as we all know, we all like to communicate in our way and receive information. So it's them working together to know how that means, because it's a group of 23 players. So it's not on that grand scale of Team GB, but the identity is there. But because people really want to play for the club, they're desperate to be part of that. They work really hard to, you know, become part of the culture and to make sure everybody fits, to be inclusive and to be supportive. And so it's not really difficult because they will want to do it. And so you see the moments and things happen in a week, you know, there's someone will do something silly, or we'll have, you know, we've done a couple of times, we've done Baa-Baas Got Talent, you know, get people to really make them, you know, put themselves out in a space and make themselves feel a bit silly or vulnerable, but everyone feeling like that's okay. And so that bit at the beginning of the week, and then those fun moments, they start to build those cohesive parts of the team will start to develop and pull together, if that makes sense.
What do you do in Baa-Baas Got Talent, Fiona? Are you up on the stage? Are you giving a big torch song, or are you golden buzzering down at the front?
I've done both, and I think I prefer, the Simon Cowell end of things. First time round, I think you'll all know Anna Richards, New Zealand, World Cup winner, fly half. She's a real character, and she said, well, the coaches are going to have to do a performance. She was the one that brought this in, and I think we did a really bad rap that Ben Lonergan, the S&C from GB Sevens, had written. I felt really out of my depth and uncomfortable, but we went with it. And then the second time we did it in Wales, I then thought my place is behind the table, and I'll direct the silliness, which was much easier.
Couple more questions from me to finish with, Fiona. Firstly, encourage people to come. So we've got this Killik Cup doubleheader at Twickenham.
Well, I think if you're coming to a rugby game, you've historically been coming for 80 minutes, and now for the benefit of fans and supporters, you get 2 games for the price of 1 ticket. But what you will see is 2 absolutely incredible matches. You will see flair, you will see passion, you'll see strength, skill, and everybody who gets the chance to come and watch live sport, if they haven't before, it's like a hook, and you'll just want more of it. We don't play a lot of games, so there's few chances for you to watch us play, and this being our first home game, it's going to be really special for us as well. So I encourage you to get involved by following us on social media. I think our social media team have got a good sense of humour about them, and they like a bit of banter. So that's something you can start to do. Through that, you'll be able to pick up all the ways that you can buy tickets through Ticketmaster. But what I do encourage people is if you're coming to the men's game, to stick around for the women's game, because it's going to be just as good, if not better.
Absolutely, well said. To finish with, I'm going to go right back to the start where we talked about the Blazers a little bit. The Barbarians, you've conquered that. Your next challenge, a women's British Lions team?
God, I think it will be fantastic. It's not that it won't happen. I just think it's going to be a process. It's going to take lots of conversation and working out some really wicked problems. Things like the men's and women's World Cups being at different times. The seasons running slightly differently. The opposition in some respects won't be at the same strength. Do we play other teams? So I think with Royal London, I'm happy to give and share the experiences I've had, some of the positives and the challenges that I've had to face over the last 4 or 5 years with them, because I think in women's sport, as we do in the NHS, we're actually about sharing the change and the culture and the experience with each other, rather than saying, well, I set this up, it's my baby. Actually, what we're about is making the game better for everyone. So we're quite, there's several people that will be involved in that process to help get that across the line. So I think it's more about timing than whether it will or won't happen. I genuinely believe that there will be a women's Lions team, and I think it will be a spectacular squad. And a shirt in that team will be highly sought after, as it is with the men.
The Killik Cup doubleheader takes place at Twickenham on Saturday, the 27th of November. The men's game against Samoa kicks off at 2:30. And then, as Fiona says, stick around 5:15 for the Springbok Women's 15 against the Barbarian Women. Fiona Stockley, team co-ordinator of the Women's Barbarians, thank you for speaking to Great British Bosses from Anything But Footy.
Thank you.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.